Hey, Dawn, welcome to the Awaken Heart podcast.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's been a pleasure to chat with you before we began the recording.
Yes, it was very good to chat before. And as I was saying, you are living my dream life as far as what you're doing with the priestess, feminine embodiment, all the amazing retreats that you have going on. We just talked about a couple of them: Egypt, Bali, New Mexico. You live in the mountains. You are an embodiment of everything that you teach. And I'm really excited to have this conversation because it's an important one to have right now as we see that there's so much going on in the world and it's very heated. And there's this whole feminine energy that is it's the return of the feminine energy. And that is embracing the feminine energy within ourselves as women. And that's also the feminine energy within men that has compassion, that's able to, cooperation, unity. We have so much happening and we're seeing a lot of things happening in our world right now where women, I feel there's an erasure of women with so many of the men coming into women's spaces. And I don't feel like we're being protected like we need to be. But again, that's like on this level, there's people that are working on this play field, that are out, working for change here. And then someone like yourself that's a change maker that, is rising above and holding the energy and the frequency for change to happen. And we can get into that as we get into the podcast more. But you have a path to priestesshood, and you've been over 38 years, you've been walking the path of a priestess. Can you share your personal journey and what initially drew you to that sacred feminine leadership? And exactly what is the priestesshood?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for this. Thank you also for your reflection of how you see and experience me because, when we're walking in our lives, I just want to acknowledge this for everyone. Sometimes we're walking in our lives and we're like, we feel the density of the 3D. We feel and see some of the crazy stuff going on or our own personal challenges. And it can be difficult at times. We could say, oh, well, I wish my life was more like theirs or whatever. And I've done that as well. And it's just this dedication. It's a dedication really to the divine that flows through us, that we are created from our creator, our mother, father, God. So my journey began in 1984 when I had a home birth. I gave birth to my first and only child, who's now 40 years old. And
Mm.
I connected with other women who were having home births, and one of them said, "Hey, let's start a mother support group." And so I was a single mom, very young. I was only 18, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to connect with other moms who want to do home birth and breastfeeding and natural stuff." And in time, one of the sisters bought a tarot deck called the Mother Peace Tarot deck, which is an extraordinary, not just but the archetypes of the divine feminine throughout the world and the textbook that goes with it, not the little booklet, but the textbook that they wrote to go with this deck is a deep historical study of the Great Mother. So that awoke in the six of us, the six mothers who had started this mother support group, what I would call now the Priestess Awakening. Now, there are only four of us left. We don't meet anymore, but we used to meet all the time. This is, again, many years ago. I am the youngest of them, and I, several years ago, as Divine Mother really called me to step into priestess leadership after all these years of quietly on my own, tarot readings, astrology readings, prayer meditation, goddess study, all the other skills and abilities that I've developed over the years. I really got called to be in sacred leadership. I was witnessing young women claiming to be priestesses who had not been doing any shadow work, who looked really good, but weren't necessarily holding a mantle that was required for now we see, and now we know why. But back then I didn't. So anyway, long story short, I was called back to really more of a sacred feminine leadership role, priestess service. helping young women to become embodied in their divine feminine energies, in their personal responsibility for their lives, in clearing shadow material from their so they could be more psychospiritually whole. And I developed a 13 moon mystery school feminine training program that I knew needed to be eventually named the same thing that that first group was. So I asked permission from the other remaining sisters if I could be the mantle holder and carry that lineage forward with all the skills and abilities I'd developed over many years since then. And so with their grace and their blessing, I have done that. And so now I guide women. I mean, among other things, but I guide women through what you call, I guess, in business, my flagship program called Mother Spirit, and that's the name of the Priestess training program, and it's 13 moons. We do deep dive into our psyches and add ceremony into that, prayer, meditation. I channel Divine Mother as well. So that's a little, those are some hints, some touch points of my journey along the way and kind of how I work with women now. So does that answer your question?
And you had talked about the Divine Mother. I would like to know about, because you had mentioned this in some of the topics that you would like to cover, and it's the Divine Mother's return in the Code of Light. So what is the Divine Mother's return, and what is the Code of Light, and how does it work?
Okay, so just tapping in here. So we are divine eternal beings created by what you could call love itself. For a long, long time now, we have had a concept of God as a white dude in the sky with a beard. And that is a projection from our ego point of view, from the personal ego point of view. God is a title, and it is the unified field of love. And in the era of patriarchy, however many thousands of years that's been, there's been a diminishment of the feminine, a denigration, a devaluation, so that God means a guy who's a dude. And if you're made in his likeness and image, then you're good. And if you're not, then, well, too bad. Sorry, you're a woman, you're less than, etc. The divine feminine is what I would call the feminine ray of God, awakening within the hearts of women and men. It is the remembrance of the nurturing aspect of that which we call God, the mother aspect. And there are many of us who serve as priestess, as divine feminine emissaries. And we are conduits for that. And there may be some brothers who do that too. So it is the rebalancing of a long forgotten balance between the inner feminine and the inner masculine energetic, so that we can be more whole as beings and more attuned to our highest possible consciousness. That cannot be done if half of that is truncated, is cut off, is disconnected. So the Divine Mother Ray, or I forgot what you called it. It's not exactly the language I used, but that it is the light ray of divine consciousness that we are awakening to at this time as a planetary family, or what you could call the Ascension. So we're moving from a planet that has been in 3D, deeply steeped in separation consciousness, a split mind that follows the ego and the belief in separation, into one more consciously awake, more unified with God / love / divine mother / unified field, however you want to call it. And in that journey, in that process, we have to clear ourselves of all that is an obstruction to the love that we are, or love's presence, which means hatred, judgment, attack, fear, separation, polarization, all of the things that keep us from being in what I would call divine equanimity, acceptance of what is and loving what is, allowing for boundaries, allowing for clarity. So I can go on and on. I know one of the pieces that you've brought in here, and I want to touch into this, is what I would call the hijacking, or the weaponization of compassion. So there's a way in which this organic ascension and awakening of divine feminine consciousness, or the mother ray of God, let's say, in women and men, is being hijacked in order to create distortion in the field and to actually eliminate mother by illusions of, I'm born in this gendered body, but I feel like I'm the other, and therefore I get to be the other. Instead of recognizing in this realm, we have feminine and we have a male and female. We have, and that's what it is in this realm. That's how we do creation here.
Mm-hmm.
We might identify as something else, but by dismembering ourselves from that, or trying to pretend we are otherwise through physical acts, or trying to infiltrate other groups, this is where great discernment and great compassion has to come in the recognition that there is a hijacking going on of consciousness that takes something, as I heard someone say, you're going in this direction, vertical toward God. But if you get hijacked just 2%, just like a 2-degree off the mark, you're going to be somewhere totally else. And that's part of what's happening here. In the 3D, the ego-based consciousness will always try to hijack a God-directed consciousness in order to maintain its control of separation and fear and the realm of ego, the 3D density of this matrix we found ourselves in.
So you can look at all the events that are going on in the world, and you're able to see it from that higher perspective because you've done the work to clear your shadow and to really integrate with your, feminine embodiment and all your practices. You're able to stay above it. I know a lot of people, it seems like it's intensifying right now, especially as an election cycle is nearing, and upside down world every time we tune in. So what would you suggest to people that are like, maybe that they haven't dived into all the work that you have to stay above the fray and keep their wits about them? Because I've done some work and I've been like, Shani, oh no, I need this.
Yeah, and I was there too. I think we're going through an initiation and a rite of passage to become aware of where we have fed into what doesn't serve our higher trajectory. So this is a great question. So thank you. I'd like to unpack this a little bit with a few different bits here. So I like to talk about the cross of matter sometimes. So there's the vertical axis and the horizontal axis. And when we start to awake into love's presence and recognize that the dream spell of this world is limiting us and we want something more, then we begin to go vertical, or what I say, root to rise, because Gaia is important to this. So she's not up there, she's here. We want to bring our soul into embodiment. So rooting into Gaia, connecting with Mother Earth. What is real in this realm? The birds singing, the trees, the leaves of the trees blowing in the wind, our feet on the soil, the rain on our face, the wind. Like, these bodies are Gaia's, and they are made to walk on Gaia. When we're living in constant drama or just walking around like our bodies are vehicles just to carry this head that thinks all the time, we're disconnected and dissociated. So we root. And then we rise to God, to the divinity that we are beyond this dream spell, beyond this form. When we get caught up in the horizontal axis, that is looking at the dramas of the 3D world. Now, sometimes there's something in our lane. So if we have, let's say I had a daughter in sports who'd been devoting many years. I used to be an athlete as well. A few times in my life, I was a synchronized swimmer, and then I was a kickboxer. If we have, let's say I was the mother of a daughter who was in sports and had devoted many years dedicated to a sport, and suddenly all her hard work is being basically cut off at the knees or sidelined because there's a male-bodied, testosterone developed boy in her sport because he identifies as a female. And now all of a sudden she can't place, she can't go on with her dreams. That's in my lane. It's my battle, if you will. It's my soul work to stand and address that. If it's not in my lane, it's not my business. I can hold awareness about it. If I feel strongly driven, I can speak about it. And this is where I think we all have to discern. And the more we have shadow material, the more we have not resolved things that trigger us, the more likely we are to be pulled in all these different directions instead of focusing on clearing ourselves so we can go vertical to be guided by what our highest service is. Some people's highest service is absolutely in the horizontal realm, what I call the battlefield, to do that. I've gotten very clear that that's not my role. I have a 40-year-old son. He's long since been in public schools. It was a different thing then. I had different responsibilities then. I don't have those. It's been many years. My responsibility is very clear to me, is to hold a high frequency for others and to serve other women, womb-carrying females, to also hold the mantle of high-frequency love light intelligence, crystalline awareness of our divinity for our sisters and brothers of Earth who are struggling through just being caught up in all the drama or dealing with things in their lane, whatever the theme is, whatever the issue is, that they have to be down there in the battlefield dealing with that. I'm super grateful that that's not what I have to do. I don't feel like I have the nerve fiber and chops for that. So I'm doing what I'm here to do. And I think we each have to discern that for ourselves. What's in my lane? What's not in my lane? What am I being triggered by? What is it triggering in me? Go back in. What in me is so triggered by this that I need to heal, clear, and upgrade? And how can I get the guidance, the mentorship, the processes, the meditation space to really heal this, to release it so it doesn't hook me anymore?
I heard somebody else talking about that too, and it just really resonated. It really made sense. I think this was around October 7th when all that was happening. I was just like, what in the world is going on here? And it made sense as far as what you were saying, like the horizontal. If it's not in your immediate field, it was if it has to do with your son, or if it's a daughter, or like me and my family, that's in my immediate field, but something that's happening halfway across the world that's not directly in my field. So you can still hold the space for whatever is going on in there. Is that what you're saying? Like, hold
Yeah,
a good space for them, but don't let it draw you away because it's not in your immediate experience, right?
right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we can weave in here now is there's a foundational principle or fundamental principle that has to do with unity. We are ultimately all one. This reality that we are living in is a dream spell of separation. We chose to come here. Our bodies are a demonstration of our belief in separation. However, we are beginning to understand, and even quantum physics sees this, that actually our energetic influences the field, just like they're realizing, like, if a scientist watched the experiment, she influences the experiments. And I mean, there's a lot of cosmic stuff we can talk about here, the plasma that's coming in, the Gaia's ascension, etc. But to put it very simply, your frequency matters. In other words, the frequency you carry, you, me, all of us, eventually densifies into form. So the lower your frequency, the more of a shit show you're dealing with in your life right now. And I'm sorry to say it, and it's really true. The higher your frequency, the more peace and equanimity you can have in your life. And you are literally emanating that into the field to serve all of life. And so for those who are very much still in 3D, they might say, oh, that's just a cop out. You just want to go up to the mountaintop and, not deal with this planetary stuff. And that's where you have to come back to what's in my lane, what's not in my lane. How can I be in highest service? What are my skill sets? What are my passions? What is my joy? This is the whole law of attraction, but at a higher level of consciousness. What am I called to? What is spirit calling me to? we are all here in service. The women that I serve, and I do work sometimes with brothers, just not that much. My husband does, though, works very much with men. We are all here, those of us who feel an awareness of the ascension happening, to be in service to the organic ascension of Earth. And that includes all our sisters and brothers. So one of the ways that we can do that is by emanating peace, by being the peace, the love, the forgiveness, compassion, the equanimity, and the mercy we wish to see in the world. So it serves us not, and it serves our sisters and brothers not, to judge those lost in the miasms of fear, separation, hijacking of compassionate ideas. It serves us not to judge them. We have to have compassion in the recognition that, boy, that person has really gotten hijacked to think it's okay to do XYZ when it's obviously not. And yet have boundaries too. We have the right to have boundaries as well. So, yeah, I mean, I can keep going on, but I want to pause here and kind of see if that's covering more of what you're wanting to address here.
No, it definitely is. And well, because we're energetic beings and we've seen it in so many different experiments, like the different frequency that's affecting the water and just everything's emanating in us. The Heart Math Institute, that it's the coherence between the heart and the brain and our energetic fields and how it resonates out further. Like it's stuff that we don't see. And then we're finally, science is at least coming together with spirituality where you're actually seeing, like Joe Dispenza's work, you're seeing tangible stuff and explained in that way. But and I can see that. So how would somebody that's kind of wrapped up in the 3D world get to that place? Equanimity, is that how you say it? I don't know if that was exactly my question.
Yeah.
I think it was something along with that. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world. So if they see something or catch something, how do they rise above it? Because we're seeing like our country being invaded. It's not even our country, it's a worldwide thing. So we're seeing that and we understand what is happening. We see what's happening in the higher level and we see what's happening with the globalists and the global level. We know what's happening. We see it. So how can somebody that's just seeing all this stuff happen and is being carried away and like being like a leaf in the wind, like, okay, here's this news cycle and then the president's assassinated and then it disappears. The gaslighting, the severe gaslighting. I know that's one of my triggers is the gaslighting, is the lies. That triggers me so much. And I always look at myself like, where is it and how am I lying to myself? Or where am I not being honest with myself? So I try to look at that within myself. I feel it has something to do with before I came into this lifetime. I feel it has to do with back when there was the witch trials or, I definitely was. Something happened to me back then. So in short, with all the things that are changing in our world, divine feminine how do you say that? Equanimity, right?
Yeah.
Equanimity. How can somebody begin to, what would you suggest to somebody that's kind of on, wants to rise above, but still caught in the fray?
Oh, this is it. This is such a big question and a significant one. So I want to get really clear here. First, you have to want to. Second, you have to go within and begin to look. Third, if you don't have a belief that there is a higher order, that this is actually a dream, and you are a divine, eternal being, beloved always by Mother, Father, God, you will live eternally. If you don't have that belief, if you believe that this world is it, and our country or our planet is about to go into hell in a handbasket, and we're all going to go into the depths of Mordor or, whatever your idea of hell is, then it's going to be very hard to rise above that. It's going to be very hard. So you have to put it in perspective. There are a lot of ways that can be done. As an astrologer, the destiny of our Earth is we are in an ascension cycle. You could see it astrologically. You can see it in terms of the turning of the ages, the precession of equinox. You can feel it with the energetics of Gaia shifting, the plasma that's being influenced. We are moving through the photon belt. There is so much evidence for those who begin to look to see all of the craziness is actually the dismantling of the old unloving systems that do not serve life. If we keep feeding our anxiety to them, we prolong the collapse. They need to collapse. They need to. But if all you ever look at is that, you never see that alongside of that, not in mainstream, entire new systems are being created, whether that's food systems, trade, community, education, health, medicine, spiritual attunement with higher sources. All of it is already happening. So there is a level of divine trust, prayerfulness, relinquishment of attachment to the old. So those who are deeply invested in the old systems through their jobs, their careers, their businesses, whatever, do have a harder time because their 3D world gets rocked. And I have friends who are dealing with that because them or their husbands are in, real jobs that are invested in the old system. So they're having to reinvent themselves. But really, what's required first is to go within, to pray, to go vertical, to ask for divine guidance to show you how you can be in more peace and acceptance of what is, and begin to align yourself with the highest possible timeline for your personal ascension and for the Earth's ascension. As you do that, what happens is in time, your shit comes up to be cleared. That's just the way it is. You've got maybe incarnations full of trauma, family lineage worth of trauma. This incarnation worth of trauma to clear and to clean. So that happens. But if you keep yourself devoted and dedicated and walking the path, and you'll call in others who lift you, who can see a greater scope of it. You'll call in the right teachers, the guides, the mentors, and you will rise. The saying that I say, this is my motto for my service in the world: we lift as we rise. So there's a lot more to it than that. Obviously, this can't be totally communicated in one message, but really you go vertical, you devote yourself to a higher perspective. Every time you fall down, you trust, like, I am much more than this mind body vehicle walking in this 3D earth plane. And Gaia is ascending. So that means all of these crazy shenanigans are not a destiny to doom. They are the death throes of an unloving system that is no longer supported, because enough people on this planet, enough love and light, the consciousness is now above it and won't support it anymore.
Yeah, and there's so many things that are trying to keep, they know this is, the forces at work know that there is this huge awakening and rising and doing all these things to try to keep us calcified, pineal glands, chemtrails, mRNAs and stuff, and trying to cut us off from the divinity. And like a lot of these, it feels like the attack on the feminine is happening, but we're still rising. And so from a priestess and astrologer's perspective, what is the Great Awakening and how do you see it unfolding?
Yeah, the Great Awakening is already unfolding. We can see it because you can go even to mainstream social media, and once you clear your algorithms by searching for the right things, all of the meditation, spiritual things, self-awareness, personal growth, astrology, tarot, all of that, all of these possibilities are available to us now that were not before. I mean, when I started my journey in 1984, there were some things, but not a lot. Now there is a lot of infiltration, so discernment is required. And that, that's each individual personal journey. So the ascension is that Gaia is becoming a planet that does not support deep levels of 3D separation for humans. She will become and is becoming a planet where more peace and equanimity reside, which means that those souls and beings who still want to play out deep levels of separation and hate, attack, and war and stuff will begin to be incarnated on some other planet somewhere else. We will become less dense in consciousness and eventually in body. How long that takes, I don't know. But I do feel that in my lifetime, and I'm 59, I will definitely see new systems as the norm for education, for healing,
Mm,
for community, for food systems. I definitely
mm,
feel I will see the end of chemtrails and the end of war,
mm,
except maybe in small pockets around the world, because it's no longer supported on this planet. Now, there doesn't have to be judgment about souls. All souls are growing in their own way, and some souls choose to take journeys deep in separation from God, from our Godlike,
mhm,
even though it's always inside of us. And so they live in experiences of deep trauma and then slowly climb their way back out, I guess. That's certainly been what I feel my experience is. God has blessed them. God bless them because there, but for the grace of the divine go I. I and my creator are one. I and my sisters and brothers of this earth, even those deeply caught in distortion, are one. I and my galactic brothers and sisters are also one, even though my frequency may be much lower than some of the galactic sisters and brothers who are supporting us at this time, and the master
mhm.
teachers in the non-physical, the ascended masters, etc. So we are all one beyond all the dream. And this planet, this ascension, is a shift from a planet that was originally, maybe not. Maybe it's a cycle thing. I don't know, for deep separation, and now shifting into one of more unity, and thereby allowing for higher consciousness to reside in greater peace and unity here on Gaia's body.
Mm. I like how you say, well, I caught you earlier saying understanding because I know understand is understand. So you said
Yeah.
understanding. So, the word is your wand. And I like to go vertical. That's something that you can catch yourself in the moment to go vertical because literally you picture the roots going into your feet and then growing up through your head and connecting to the heavens. So I think those are very important tools that you can catch yourself in the moment of these things. And also looking at other people that are caught in the death throes or really wrapped up into it, maybe looking at them with compassion, knowing that that's what, some people aren't contracted to wake up in this lifetime. They're supposed to
Yes.
go through whatever they're looking. And instead of getting so upset that they're so hateful or whatever they're espousing, grief, trauma, anger, hate. I see a lot of it out there. Just looking at them, having compassion for them, and seeing that they're kind of still asleep, and holding space for them too. With your own light and your own energy, sending that out there so that they can, the part of them that's not there can recognize it and hopefully at some point awaken either in this lifetime or the next one.
Yeah, it's just being in acceptance. It's not even like we have to project a lot of energy toward them. They have their own free
Right.
will, and we don't know what their soul plan is. So you said it very well of just, eventually they will wake up, and we not everyone has assigned themselves to wake up in this incarnation. That's perfectly okay. My responsibility is, where am I going with my energies? What is my daily spiritual practice that helps me go vertical when I start to catch myself getting caught up in the slings and arrows of the 3D realm? And that just touches on something that I just wanted to also say in terms of how do we pull ourselves up. We all have to find the spiritual practices that work for us, whether it's meditation, affirmations, visualization. It can be so many things. I mean, if you just find yourself spinning off in like fear and anxiety, find a lovely guided meditation that you resonate with the person's voice on YouTube and listen to that. Anything to step yourself up in frequency using I ams. I am love. I am light. I am welcoming in a higher consciousness now. I am able to access my love. I am willing to forgive. I am welcoming in my guides and teachers to show me the way to my vertical alignment. Anything that you can do to just shift and take one step up, just one step at a time. It's not, wow, I feel like I'm dragged around and through the mud of 3D, and now I want to ascend and be enlightened. It's step by step.
And it's also, I had mentioned, like, when I get caught up in the news cycle through my Instagram feed, it'd be nice to clear my feed because I used to just watch animals and travel. Now I try to wean down on a lot of the political content, but also realizing that sometimes, like, it's literally a dopamine hit. I was getting a
Yes.
dopamine hit and craving that dopamine hit, like that endless, sometimes the endless scrolling, even though I have like alarms on mine, like for an hour, I keep scrolling. And then it's just like constant. It's just like breaking anything, like going back for that sixth donut or whatever. You just like have to stop because some of that food, you notice when it's, I think it's when it's when it's got those, what are those? MGOs? I can't think of it now.
GMOs.
GMOs.
Yeah.
GMOs, like you eat an Oreo and you're craving to go right back to it because they instigate that in the Oreo. So it's like resisting that and then it passes.
Yeah.
So, you can
Yeah.
break the cycle and realize that you're getting a hit out of it. And then looking at what is missing within myself. What am I not looking towards myself that I need this external to feel something?
Yeah.
So it's
Because,
like going internally.
yeah, because this is the thing. This is the divine will. I surrender my ego will to the will of the divine is is the solar plexus anointing that we do in the Mother Spirit Priestess mystery school. So when we're addicted, it's very easy to go for that next one. For me, I go through cycles with sugar. I mean, sugar is one of the most addictive substances, and chocolate is so delicious. But I start to feel sick if I do it too much. What I have found, though, is that certainly with the addiction to scrolling, getting the dopamine hit, looking at what's the next BS going on the planet, once I really, really stopped that, and it gave me a while and really devoted much more time to my spiritual practice, I've become much more sensitive. And this is what happens. All of that stuff desensitizes you. The more sensitive you become, I can literally, like, I don't have my phone with me. Okay, here's my calculator. Let's pretend this is my phone, right? I can be looking, at something, and I can literally feel my frequency drop now. That's a fairly new thing for
I
me,
felt
like
that
the last
earlier.
year. I can feel it. I'm like, and I'm looking at like
Mhm.
puppies, but then there'll be, especially with the elections here in the United States, the ads and the stuff. And I can just feel it's like my
Mhm.
body now, maybe it's my soul, but it feels in my body is saying, put it down now. There's a frequency there too, especially the phones. They're monitoring
Mhm.
us, right? If you want to want information on something, you can literally just yell it at your phone. I need a new bed. I need a new bed. And I need a new bed. You're going to get ad in
Or
whatever social.
you think it,
Yeah.
and it shows up now. You think it. I'm like,
It's rather frightening,
yes.
actually. So, yeah. So the resensitization is a piece of this, and then honoring it. Like, ooh, I feel it. I can ignore it, or I could go, wow, my body mind vehicle is saying, acknowledge what you're feeling here, whatever that is, whether it's putting down the phone or, you know, I really have to go meditate now, or I really need to walk in the forest. I need to put my feet on Gaia and talk to her right now instead of, you know, writing another email or whatever it is you're doing.
Yep. Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I think this morning, because I'm trying to be more, doing the gazing and just starting to little bits at a time getting back into my practice. And I went to open and look at feet. Even thinking about it makes my stomach hurt. But I think over the weekend, I wanted to like leave the world behind, that Obama movie. And I've been so against seeing it for so long because I've actually heard there's actually an additional track below. Like there's 3 tracks on there, and most editing, there's only 2 tracks, like the audio and then the visual, but there was an extra track on there. I don't know what that was about, like somebody that was editing. And I started watching it. I'm like, you know what? I can't watch this. I can't watch this. So I ended up turning it off because I felt bad about seeing it before, especially who I think it's programming. But literally it was like, you can't watch this. You can't watch this. I'm like, what? I wanted to watch it. No, I turned it off.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah. And
I didn't
interesting,
even get past the credits.
the thing about the tracks, frequency, we're coming to find out. And I think it was Tesla said something, I'm paraphrasing, something of the future is about energy, frequency, and vibration. And so frequency is very significant. And we know that you can use frequency for healing, for example. There are now whole, frequency systems that use sound and light to reestablish balance in the cells. Low frequency is influencing people. This is another I haven't owned a TV in years. So, the TV, the news, oh my God,
Mhm.
mainstream
I
music.
stopped years
Yeah,
ago.
the
Mhm.
and of course the telephones, the smartphones, all of that stuff, and all the smart stuff that spies on you. Like when my husband needed a new truck, we live out in the country. I'm like, hey, a dumb truck. Buy a dumb truck. We don't want a smart truck that spies. I want a dumb truck.
Yeah. A dumb truck. A
Dumb,
dumb,
like as in the
D-U-M-B or
opposite of
dump?
smart. No, not dumb.
That's awesome.
Smart, everything is
Yeah.
smart, right? You got your smartphone and your smart things. They're all spying on you. Smart is an
Mm,
acronym for like, I don't know what, but anyway, they spy on you. All those systems, they're keying you in and tracking you. And so I was like, don't buy a smart truck, buy a nice old dumb
mm,
truck.
mm, mhm. You're gonna want that for sure. And the new ones, they're pushing the ones with the batteries. Like, I don't want an electric car. I don't want to cook inside of this car. Like, it's bad enough we use Bluetooth in our car. Like, literally, you're gonna bake inside it, and it's gonna be controlled. Oh, we don't want you driving anymore. It's off. Oh, you went outside of
Exactly.
your zone. It's off. Like, hello.
That's why I
Give me
said
my
that's what I meant by
old
a
fashioned
dumb
truck.
truck. Yeah. If I turn the key on,
Yes.
it goes. When it stops is when I turn it off.
Yes. I love it. Perfect. Right on the same wavelength. All right. Well, just a few more questions before we go. I'm trying to keep us at within our time. I wanted to ask, you had mentioned riding the dragon as an analogy for divine feminine equanimity in times of change. Can you explain this concept and how it applies to maintaining balance and harmony in turbulent times?
Yeah. Yeah. So some of your listeners may be familiar, and you may be familiar with the goddess Kuan Yin. She's a bodhisattva or incarnation of Buddha mind or compassionate heart from the Far East. And she's often seen, her iconic image is often seen, she's riding a dragon. So she's standing in complete stillness. She holds this vessel and she is just on these writhing dragons. And it very much reminds me and is a symbol of a reminder to me that during times of such tumult and change, which is what the planet right now, it's like, all these tumultuous dragons and waves of drama and distress, that it's possible to just be in this equanimity state of, I am a divine eternal being. I am beloved child of God. And so is everyone else that I see. And while they may be caught up in drama, I don't need to go there. I can go vertical. I can ride the dragons of this change. In fact, I
Mm,
trained many incarnations to do just this. And it's not just, I'm not saying that Dawn me. I'm saying that if you're listening to this, you have to. That we have everything we need to come into a place of complete equanimity. It's about going vertical. It's about recognizing there's tumultuous change on the planet. And the way out of it is for enough of us to come into harmonization with love, with higher frequency, with love, light, intelligence, to literally lift and rise us out of it. And Kuan Yin, the goddess of mercy, compassion, is the archetype of that. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Have you ever heard of the tarot deck? Or no, it's a oracle cards. I have the Dragon Fae. It's a lot of dragons. It's the Dragon Fae that lives in the forest.
Okay, I have not heard of that deck, but certainly working with the dragon realm and the elemental realm, the Gaia realms of elementals, is a part of some of our assignments right now, and it is part of my assignment as well. And that's been the case for a long time. I mean, you can think about Findhorn, right? And the Fae that came and helped them grow huge vegetables and stuff. Where's that? In Scotland, I think?
Mm,
So yeah, the dragon, many people are connecting with the dragons and the Fae now, and the interdimensional beings that are guardians of Gaia and that are supporting her
mm.
ascension and starting to work with us and starting to communicate with us through channeling, etc.
So just go out into the forest bathe, and just talk to the energies and the entities and the spirits that are out there. I've got a forest right out my back door, which is wonderful.
Beautiful. Yeah, my
Gravitated
you
towards it.
too. Yeah, I do too.
Yes.
Yeah, and the trees as well, the tree beings. I mean, there's so much. I have a tree that
I love
when I have
trees.
my retreats here, we do work with the trees. There's one in particular, grandmother tree, who spoke to me and said, "Come and sit with me." And I've had a lot of downloads there, a lot of energetic transmissions that become subtle awarenesses as I go through the days and weeks. So yeah, there's the being in nature. You may not receive those transmissions like you and I talking, but they come. They come when you're in enough stillness
Mhm.
and silence to allow the fae, the dragons, the nagas, they're the water dragons of the Far East, and the tree beings and others to come and to guide you, support you, nurture you, or ask for your alliance for certain things. I work a lot with crystals and the crystal realm as well. I'm the guardian of many, many quartz crystals here that have been given me, that have been found here. And working in the crystalline realm is another piece right now of that. The elementals beginning our ability to connect with them and their ability to connect with us again as part of this ascension cycle.
Wonderful. Just seeing how much time we have. You have till what, 3:45 or 3:48?
I have about 5 more minutes. Yeah.
Okay, let's start wrapping it up. Well, this has been such a fantastic conversation. I would love for my listeners to know how to find you and work with you and go on some of your fabulous retreats. I know you have one coming up in November and you have one seat left, but it's probably going to be taken up by the time this airs. So, I mean, God, if everyone can go to her website, she's going to tell you where her website. I'm going to put it on in the show notes. But my God, some of her credentials, like all these accreditation she has, is pretty incredible. I would just love to dedicate my whole life to like just learning what you learned. But if you could let my audience know where to find and work with you.
Yeah, the best way is to go to, well, there's two good ways. There's three, probably. Really. There's my website, dawndelvecchio.com. It's just my name, one word.com. And, but I also have a Substack channel it's the Priestess. You can add that one. I know my assistant sent you the link to my Substack. I do audios there. Like I channel, sometimes I channel in my journal. I'm a writing channel and a speaking channel as well. Sometimes trance channel. So I share a lot of channeled material, sometimes written, sometimes I do audios. And then I have a YouTube channel that I've had for years too. And again, you go to YouTube and you search my name, Dawn Del Vecchio, and you'll find it. Under Substack, I think you have to look up Priestess or Return of the Priestess. But you can also look up my name. Those are the best ways. And also, depending on when this airs, it's probably going to be full, but I also have a retreat in Thailand in February 24th through March 3rd. And then I will be hosting retreats here on my property at the Temple of the Mothers, where we work a lot with the elemental realm in the spring and the fall each year. So if you're interested in those, then the best thing to do is get on my email list or get on my Substack. What do you do? Where you register for it. They're both free, and then you get the emails and you get the messages when things are coming up, courses, online courses, retreats, trainings, etc.
It seems like you've always got something coming up. Looking at your webpage and hearing about all the offerings that you have, it was fun looking at all that. All right, well, it's been so wonderful having you on. We could just go on and on about so many different topics and feminine and body, so many things we could talk about it. But I want to just wrap up with my last question, and that is, what does it mean for you to live with an awakened heart?
Oh, good question. I'm working a lot with my heart right now to really, really open it. To live with an awakened heart is to accept each and every sister and brother of Earth exactly where they are, such that I can be in compassionate presence with them.
Beautiful, beautiful, much needed. Well, Dawn, thank you so much. It was so wonderful having you on the Awakened Heart podcast.
Thank you, Nancy. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.